The sun peeked through the window as Mike wiped down the big mirror in his small salon. It was early in the morning, just like every other day. Birds were singing outside, and the streets of the city were slowly waking up. Mike smiled to himself. He loved this moment, the quiet before the world came rushing in. Mike's salon was small but neat. The white walls had pictures of stylish haircuts and celebrities. His red chair was shiny, and the clippers on the table beside it were clean and ready. Everything had its place. Mike made sure of that. He wasn't just a barber. He was an artist with hair. Everyone who sat in his chair left looking better, and feeling better too. That was what made people come back. Even the children in the neighborhood loved Mike. He would always offer sweets after a cut or let them play a quick game on his PlayStation. Though Mike was just 26 and didn't have a big house or a fancy car, he was happy. His life was quiet, simple, and honest. He had dreams, big dreams. Someday, he wanted to turn his salon into a brand, with branches in every city. He even had a sketchbook where he drew designs for future salons. On quiet afternoons, he would sit by the window, dreaming of what life could be. But for now, he was okay with the present. He had built something with his own hands. His shop stood on a busy street where people walked by all day. Office workers, students, Okada riders, and even security guards, they all stopped by Mike's salon. And Mike, with his warm smile and steady hands, made them all feel welcome. Things were going really well for Mike. Every day, more people found their way to his little salon. Some came from nearby streets. Some came from far places. A few even came in cars just to get a simple haircut and spend time with Mike. But the funny thing was, most people didn't come just for the haircut. They came because of Mike himself. He had a way of making people feel special. He listened when people spoke. He laughed when they told jokes. He gave advice when someone looked troubled. And when someone looked tired, he gave them a cold drink, even if it meant using his own last change. The neighbors called him the calm one. And they meant it. Even when the electricity went off or a child cried loudly, Mike never shouted. He never rushed. He just smiled and handled things gently. His hands were steady, and his voice was soft. People loved that. Years had passed. Mike was no longer just the friendly neighborhood barber, he was now well known across town. His salon had gotten bigger, and he even hired a young assistant named Daniel to help with customers. But no matter how much things changed, Mike remained the same, calm, gentle, and full of dreams. Still, deep inside, something felt missing. His life was full, but his heart felt a little empty. He had built a good name, a stable business, and peaceful routines, but there was no one to share it with. Until the day she walked by. Her name was Precious. Mike first saw her one sunny afternoon. She was walking past his salon in a bright yellow dress, carrying a shopping bag and wearing a smile that could melt a frozen heart. Mike couldn't look away. Something about her, her walk, her calm beauty, her peaceful aura, stayed in his mind all day. From that day on, Mike found himself watching out for her. She passed by often, and sometimes she'd smile at him. One day, he gathered the courage to say, "Hello." She replied kindly. That hello turned into small talk. Small talks became longer conversations. Precious turned out to be smart, respectful, and kind. She worked at a fashion store just 2 streets away and lived with her elder sister in the area. Mike liked how she listened and spoke gently. Precious, too, started looking forward to their chats. She noticed how respectful Mike was. How he treated everyone around him with care. How his smile could brighten anyone's day. Weeks passed, and one evening, as they stood outside the salon, the sky turning orange with sunset, Mike finally spoke his heart. "I don't know how else to say this," he began, looking nervous but honest. "But I like you, Precious." I don't just want to be your friend. I want something deeper, something serious. I want to be with you. Not just for now, but for always. Precious was quiet for a moment. Her heart beat faster. But she smiled and looked at him softly. I've been waiting for you to say that, she whispered. I feel the same way. That was the beginning of something new. Something beautiful. Mike had taken a bold step, and now, for the first time in a long time, he felt complete. But sometimes, love comes with its own surprises. And not every smile is as perfect as it looks. The wedding was simple but beautiful. Mike and Precious stood before friends, family, and neighbors who all clapped with joy as they said I do. It was a bright and happy day. Mike wore a grey suit and a soft smile. Precious looked like a queen in her white dress, glowing like the morning sun. Everyone around them cheered. They looked like the perfect couple. And for a while, they were. After their marriage, Mike rented a bigger apartment for them in a clean and quiet estate. He wanted to give Precious the best. He opened a small boutique shop for her where she could sell beautiful clothes and shoes. She ran it well and often came back home with laughter in her voice and joy in her eyes. Mike still worked hard at the salon, cutting hair, smiling at customers, and coming home tired but fulfilled. They cooked dinner together, laughed over silly things, and sometimes sat outside to watch the stars. Life was good. Then one day, Precious told him the news: she was pregnant. Mike's heart jumped. He had always wanted children. A child to carry his name. A son, especially. He dreamed of teaching his son how to cut hair, how to run a business, and how to become a man. When the baby finally came, she was a beautiful baby girl. Tiny fingers. Bright, curious eyes. Her cry was soft, like music. Everyone celebrated. Precious cried tears of joy. But Mike smiled on the outside, yet something inside him was quiet. Disappointed. He had really wanted a boy. Still, he didn't say anything harsh. He named the girl Michelle and carried her carefully in his arms. Over time, he grew to love her. He would rock her to sleep, play with her tiny toes, and feed her when she cried. But in his heart, he still held on to one hope: maybe the next baby would be a boy. Years passed. Michelle grew up with her mother's smile and her father's kindness. She was a smart, bubbly little girl who brought sunshine into the home. But Mike's heart remained incomplete. Then, Precious got pregnant again. This time, Mike was excited. He walked around with extra joy in his steps. This time, he whispered to himself, it has to be a boy. But when the nurse came out with a soft smile and said, congratulations, it's another girl, Mike felt like the ground had cracked beneath him. His face went pale. His mouth stayed shut. He walked into the room and saw Precious smiling weakly, holding the baby close. She's perfect, she whispered. Mike looked at the baby, but his heart was heavy. He nodded slowly and said nothing. The silence between them started from that day. And soon, the silence turned to distance. Then the distance became something else entirely. When Precious got pregnant the third time, she could feel the pressure in the air. Mike had barely spoken to her during the pregnancy. He came home late, ate silently, and sometimes didn't come home at all. Precious tried her best to stay strong. She hoped this baby would bring peace back into their home. But when the time came and she went into labor, Mike didn't even show up. She was alone in the hospital. No hand to hold. No voice to calm her. No one to say, you'll be okay. She cried, not just from the pain of giving birth, but from the deep sadness that Mike had truly changed. Hours later, the baby arrived, a healthy, beautiful girl with round cheeks and soft hair. But there was no joy on Mike's face when he finally heard the news. Instead, his heart grew cold. Another girl. That night, Mike didn't go to the hospital. He didn't call. He didn't care. When Precious returned home days later with the baby wrapped in a soft pink cloth, Mike didn't welcome her. He stood at the door and stared at her with a face full of anger. "You can go," he said coldly. "Take your daughters and leave." Precious froze. "Mike, what are you saying?" "I said go," he shouted. "You'll never give me a son. You're of no use to me anymore. The shop is closed. The marriage is over. Don't ever come back." Tears rolled down Precious' cheeks as she held her newborn tightly and watched the door slam in her face. She walked away that night, her heart broken into tiny pieces. With 3 daughters and no husband, she had nowhere to go except her family home. Her mother cried when she saw her. Her siblings helped her settle in. They gave her a small room in the house and supported her as she raised her daughters alone. Life wasn't easy, but Precious never gave up. She worked hard. She prayed. She loved her girls deeply and raised them with courage. The girls grew, knowing what pain looked like, but also what strength felt like. Mike, on the other hand, never called. Never checked on them. Not even once. His heart had become a locked room, shut away from the love he once knew. But life has a way of circling back. And sometimes, the things we throw away are the very things we need the most. Mike was at peace, or so he thought. He lived alone now. No laughter in the house. No soft voices. No tiny feet running across the floor. Just silence and the buzz of his clippers at the salon. He believed he had made the right choice. He told himself that all he needed was a son to make him proud, and since that didn't happen, he chose to move on. But life was quietly watching. One morning, Mike woke up early like he always did. He brushed his teeth, had a quick breakfast, and stepped out into the cool morning air. The sun hadn't risen yet, but the streets were already humming with early footsteps and quiet honks. He walked toward his salon, humming a soft tune, until he turned the corner and stopped in shock. Smoke. Ashes. People gathered around the burnt structure. His shop. Mike ran toward the crowd, pushing through shoulders and arms, hoping it wasn't real. But it was. His salon, the place he built with his dreams, sweat, and kindness, was gone. Burned to the ground. Nothing was saved. He fell to his knees in disbelief. His heart pounded. His hands shook. His mind went blank. The people around him tried to talk to him, but their voices were distant. Faint. Lost in the roaring silence of his pain. For the first time in years, Mike cried. Life has not been easy. But through tears, hunger, and long nights, she had taught her daughters to work hard, read their books, and believe in their future. She had given up so much, but never her love for them. And now, the results were showing. One by one, letters came in the mail. Scholarship awards. Best student medals. Invitation to study in top universities. Precious screamed with joy the day the final letter arrived. All 3 of her daughters, Michelle, Clara, and little Ruth, had won full scholarships. The entire family danced. The neighbors came over. Even the local radio station came to interview them. And Precious stood tall, holding her daughter's hands, her eyes filled with tears, not of sadness, but of pride. She had lost a husband. But she had raised queens. Far away, Mike sat on a broken stool beside the ruins of his shop, alone, empty, and forgotten. He didn't know yet. He didn't know what his daughters had become. But the truth was coming. And with it, a storm of regrets. Months passed. Mike was no longer the man people used to know. His salon was gone. His savings had dried up. Some of his old customers had moved on to other barbers. Every day felt longer than the last. He would sit outside a small kiosk near the bus stop, cutting hair just to earn a little money, just enough to eat and survive. The nights were the hardest. He would lie down on a thin mattress in a small room, staring at the ceiling, his heart heavy with thoughts. Then one day, a friend who hadn't seen him in years stopped by. "Mike," he said, shaking his head slowly. "Have you heard about your daughters?" Mike looked up, confused. "What about them?" "They are stars," the friend said with a smile. "All three of them. Scholarships. Top universities. They are making waves. Even your wife, she's doing fine now. Small business. Clean, decent life." Mike's mouth fell open. His heart sank. He had missed it all. The first steps. The school awards. The laughter. The hard times. The growth. All because he wanted a son. He couldn't speak. His friend gave him a long look. "You were wrong, Mike. Everyone sees it. But it's not too late. Go and beg. Fix what you broke." For weeks, Mike wrestled with shame. Every time he thought of facing Precious and the girls, his heart would beat fast with fear. What if they slammed the door in his face? What if they hated him now? But one afternoon, as the sun set gently behind the buildings, Mike stood up, took a deep breath, and walked to the house he once called home. He knocked. The door opened slowly. It was Michelle, the first daughter. She froze when she saw him. Mike dropped to his knees, his voice shaking. "Please, call your mother." Precious stepped out a few moments later. She was silent at first. Her eyes met his. The man who once rejected her. The man who left her in the darkest season of her life. But now, here he was, broken, tired, and full of regret. "I'm sorry," Mike whispered, his eyes filled with tears. "For everything. I failed you. I failed all of you. I was blind. I was foolish. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I beg for it." He turned to his daughters who had now gathered behind their mother. "You are my children. I may not have known your worth then, but now I do. Please, forgive me." There was silence. Then Precious spoke. "You left us, Mike. We cried. We struggled. But we survived." Mike nodded, tears flowing freely. "I know. You hurt us. I know. But we also learned to rise. We became strong." "I'm glad," he whispered. Precious looked at her daughters, then back at Mike. The pain was deep, but her heart still had a space for mercy. After a long pause, she stepped forward and helped him to his feet. "It's not easy," she said softly. "But I forgive you." Mike broke down and wept like a child. Michelle, Clara, and Ruth slowly came forward and hugged him, shaky, unsure, but willing. The healing had begun. Love, once lost, was finding its way back. But life wasn't done with them yet. There were still lessons to learn. And tests to come. The days that followed felt like a new beginning. Mike, once lost and empty, now woke up with purpose again, but this time, not just for himself. He was a father again. He was a husband again. And even though the house he came back to wasn't his old one, it was full of something he hadn't felt in years, real love. Precious gave him space to grow. She didn't pretend like everything was perfect, but she treated him with grace. Her eyes no longer held bitterness, only a deep wisdom and quiet strength. The girls, now older and wiser, slowly opened their hearts. They had every reason to stay angry. But instead, they chose love. Mike began helping out with Precious's small business. He carried goods, helped set up the shop, and ran errands. He didn't have a salon anymore, but he had a heart full of service. Every night, they would sit as a family and eat together. Mike would look at his daughters, smart, strong, beautiful, and feel a quiet ache in his chest. Not of pain, but of wonder. How could I have ever thrown this away, he would think. But the past was behind. What mattered now was the present. And in the present, he was a father learning to love. A man learning to rebuild. A family starting again. And so, despite all the pain, betrayal, and heartbreak, love found its way back. The family was whole again, not perfect, but healing. Mike, once blind to the treasure he had, now cherished every moment with his daughters and the woman he once turned away. But not every heart can forgive so easily. Do you think Precious made the right decision by accepting Mike back into her life? If you were in her shoes, would you choose forgiveness, or guard your heart and move on? Thank you for watching this episode. If the story touched you, please support the channel by subscribing and sharing the video. I can't wait to see you in the next one.